Greetings to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to talk with Mimi Mefo. The French have so far been accused of being at the center of most conflict in Africa, some dating as far as the colonial era. We know about the conflict that is currently rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon in the northwest and the southwest regions, which is also being described as a continuation of the French colonial policy of assimilation. But while many French diplomats, officials in Cameroon and even out of Cameroon have been silent about France's role in perpetuating conflict across the world without leaving out Africa. There are a few lone voices who have been speaking out. For example, Honorable Sébastien Nadot, who is joining us tonight to talk about the relationship between France and Cameroon, the relationship between France and Africa. Good evening to you, Honorable. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for your invitation.
We should be thanking you, of course, for coming. Just briefly, so many people do not really know who you are, what you represent, what you've been able to do so far, what you've been doing in France as a politician. Would you briefly tell us who you are?
Well, in fact, I'm just a parliament member in France, and I'm a member of the Foreign Committee Affairs. And so my first mission is to control the action of my government to see if what they are doing is good and is really what they are saying they are doing. And particularly because I'm in the Foreign Affairs Committee, I have to see what the foreign minister is doing, and particularly with the countries of Africa. And so in the subject we are going to talk about, that is Cameroon, and of course the conflict of Cameroon, because I think we have different problems to speak about in this case.
Thank you so much for that brief and elaborate, I should say brief and elaborate at the same time introduction. I know you've been talking as well a lot about French sales of arms to repressive governments across the world. I mean, the French, you have been talking against that. You've been very, very critical about it. You've been talking about the French sales of arms to repressive governments like in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. What have you been able to do as an MP?
Well, in fact, I have different sort of missions, but one I think is very important. It is to explain French citizens what exactly my government is doing in foreign affairs, and particularly in the way of arms selling, for example, because France is a very big country to sell arms in foreign countries, and something not very clear, that is a very strong subject because of different reasons. But I have to say to citizens what my government is doing, because I am a representative of citizens. I'm not from the government. I don't have to say what my government is saying. My role, my duty is to control what they are doing and to say to citizens what happened in a country like, for example, Cameroon. Because in France, we don't know a lot about this.
In France, many people don't know about it, but France is a close ally to the Biya regime, which is in Yaoundé. So far, the German representative has been able to, there have been several German representatives have been able to visit Cameroon, like Lehman went to Cameroon. We saw US representatives in Cameroon. We've seen representatives from Britain visit Cameroon with regards to the Anglophone crisis. So many diplomats left the West to Africa, particularly to Cameroon, to talk about what is happening in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. Tell us why you have never visited Cameroon.
Well,
is that the reason?
In fact, it's very simple. First, I've never been invited by the government of Cameroon. And because I am someone who critic the government of Cameroon because of his sort of relationships with my government, because I'm not allowed to discuss about uh, politics in Cameroon and what exactly are the options and what should Cameroonese people do. But I have to see what happened between my government and the government of Cameroon. And on this subject, I have to say there are bad things in the both my government and the government of Cameroon. So as a consequence, I'm not invited at the moment, but why
But do
not?
you think you do you think you'll be invited someday?
Clearly, in the situation, I think it's not possible because it's a place with a dictator. So, a dictator, it's not very usual to invite people who are criticize him. So it is not something for the next few days. I don't think, but
But that is at the level of diplomacy as a private citizen or as a private individual. On like, I just want to find out from you as a private citizen. Can you come to Cameroon to gather first-hand information, because verifiable first-hand information is what is needed in what is happening in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. Many diplomats, many international organizations, many people across the world, like you say, do not really know what's going on in Cameroon. Do you think you can visit Cameroon on a personal basis?
in fact, it's something very special because I would like, but for example, as a representative, as I am, there was something organized by the National Assembly, but I was not invited. There was in, I believe, February 2020, two MPs from France who went in Cameroon. And so my personal visit is not important. What is important is my visit as a representative or as invited by uh, someone, and after I have to say something because my government don't want me to go there. It means what about my security and things like that? I don't know. So
Do you think that the French government, that you criticize sometimes a lot, could be an accomplice to the killings, the war that's ongoing in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon? If they do not want a neutral and critical voice like you to visit Cameroon, do you think that there's some sort of mutual, like some sort of mutual agreement between the French government and the Cameroonian government on the atrocities that's happening in Cameroon?
no, I don't think it's like this. I think France has decided not to say anything about what happened now in what is happening every day in Cameroon. It's a very big problem. But I don't think at any moment the French government is okay with this situation about military actions, in fact, and in southern Cameroon and all this area. But where I'm not agree with my government, it is because they are silent. There is a sort of complicity, you understand? But my government is not asking Paul Biya and his government to do some atrocities in Cameroon. No, I can't believe this. And all the information that I recovered are saying, no, it's not that. But this silence is not the good way my government has to do things with Cameroon at this moment, at this special moment.
But with regards to that, I have a preoccupation. Some months back, the deputy ambassador at the French embassy in Cameroon was spotted with some ex-combatants, people that they were convincing to drop their weapons in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. Was that not some sort of a diplomatic blunder that a deputy diplomat is going to be is spotted or found in a very compromising situation? Because here, what I understand from our discussion is that France is simply silent but not saying anything. But in action, that is not what we see on the ground. What do you have to say about that?
Well, in fact, on the ground, as you can understand, I don't have any possibilities to see what is exactly the French action. But maybe there is things I don't know. France is active, but by different ways. You have the companies, you have the public action from the foreign ministers, you have the fund helps from France, but all these different things, it's very unclear at the moment for me as a representative.
Yeah.
And it is a problem. I admit it is a real problem, but I can say with the information that I have that French people ask to do something by my government, because it is the point very important. If it is a French mercenary, but they don't have to do anything with the French government, the people of Cameroon have to do with these persons if they are not with the law. It is to Cameroonese people to solve this problem. But I admit, if it is something from the French government or linked directly with the, you say about the ambassador, okay, if there is something, but
Yes, because he was spotted in Nigeria with an ex-combatant. He's now an ex-combatant in neighboring Nigeria, talking about ways in which fighters, Amazonian fighters, could be dropping their arms. At the time when there are talks about ceasefire, at the time when there are talks about ways to end the Anglophone crisis, deputy ambassador is found in this kind of compromising situation. That is the question that so many people were asking, that what is going on?
yeah, but I don't clearly understand what is about the deputy ambassador. Who is it?
The deputy ambassador at the French embassy in Cameroon.
Okay,
Clearly,
and
like you say, there's so many informations that's not going far and wide. Many people don't get to know what's happening on the ground, because my point was there's a lot of action than talking as far as the French government is concerned. That's the point that I was making. We don't see action on the part of the French government, which brings me to this question. I want to find out why the French government is not coming clean as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned. Why is the French government not taking a position?
yes, that's also my question. Why there is not a position? And clearly, I'm very angry against my foreign minister, Jean-Yves Le Drian, for a very basic reason. First, in 2019, he went to Cameroon and he spent, I think, 3 days in Cameroon, and nothing about the Anglophone problem and this civil war. We are obliged to see if we are going in Cameroon as a minister from France. So this is, I understand clearly your question, because it is also my question. Why my government is voiceless to help people who are in civil war? That's the question. I can't go at the moment in Cameroon, and all the information that I have, they don't give me all the explanations. Okay, but of course, I'm open to have information from the ground that people from Amazonia want to send me, and I have some. I have pictures that are horrible. I have films. I have things, but all these things are not clearly help me to say French government is implicated or on something clearly on the ground.
So could it be because is France not probably saying anything because they are directly or indirectly benefiting from the conflict? Could that be the reason?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think I think the my government consider if nothing change in Cameroon, it is good for France. But they don't take in account the situation in Anglophone party of the country. And in fact, it is something very clear. Things are changing, but my government don't want. And that's why they continue to say it is Paul Biya, it's okay, it is Paul Biya. But in fact, the reality, it is we have a big problem as a partner because France, normally, it is a partner of Cameroon. It is to, in fact, see the situation as if we were in the 19th of the previous century, but now it is very different. And we don't have this analyze in my government. So I don't think it is the conflict help the situation for France from this point of view. But in fact, the France don't know how to do things, and what they are doing, it is to, in fact, to maintain the situation as it was as long as possible. It is this, and it is, in fact, some way of conservatism. And we can see in many different things that the government now in France is on conservatism everywhere. It is real in the French political matters, and for the diplomacy, it is the same. And we just have in 2017 the speech of the French president Emmanuel Macron, the new president, in Ouagadougou about the new relationships between France and the different countries of Africa. And this speech was good, but after, nothing concrete about this speech. And that is the problem. France is not is not looking at the countries of Africa as they are now. And they are very different from 20 or even from 10 years ago. And that's a really big matter. You don't have, I believe you don't have to see everywhere you are looking from the devil. You have the devil. You have people who are not good, clearly not good for Cameroon. But you also have people, even in this government and in the administration, they want something good for Cameroon. But at the moment, we have a fight between, and it is the case, I believe, in the Amazonian people. You have good people and you have bad people. And what I hope it is all the people from the uh, different countries, because it's a regional problem. It is not only Cameroon, it is also Nigeria, we know this. And it is for international community, Switzerland, Germany, United States of America, but also, you know, now China is in the game, Turkey is in the game. And we have to find all the good people from these different countries to
so that
find
they
a
can be able
solution.
to solve this problem. Now, you've taken us to the African continent. We'll be coming back to the Anglophone crisis, what is happening in the Northwest and the Southwest regions. Of course, we want to hear from you. What could be the solutions? What are some of the things that you've been able to propose to the French government? But before we get there, now that you've taken us to Africa, we've seen France has intervened following the elections in Ivory Coast, because you were talking about France's role in African politics and how things function in some African countries. And as far as the election in Ivory Coast is concerned, the President Laurent Gbagbo was replaced by Alassane Dramane Ouattara, and that was several years back. Tell us, why have has the French government not been able to intervene as well in political issues in Cameroon since 2018, when we are seeing an opposition leader, Professor Maurice Kamto, contesting the results of the election?
Well, for different reasons, clearly. The first reason is all around economic reason. That is to say, we can, as a country like France, we can choose to organize our diplomacy all around first human rights and after economy. And that's somewhere what the speech of Emmanuel Macron was. Because with human rights, France is going to come back. But in fact, in the situation of Cameroon in 2018, the economical questions are first and are the only questions. And it is a big mistake of France at the moment. And you spoke about Ivory Coast, but it is the same in different areas. I think about Guinea or some Central Africa Republic. The question is, what does a country like my country want first? And I believe, because of his story with the African countries, the good way could be to put first the question of human rights. Even for the French economy, it could be the first solution. Why? Clearly, because just have a look with the economy of Cameroon linked with France. You just have big companies from France. And in fact, we are losing everything about small companies that could benefit clearly for Cameroonese people and for French people. But the government make the choice, clearly the choice in favor of big French companies.
So the French government is, in other words, supporting the BR regime, is a number one supporter of the BR regime. That's what you're saying.
Yes, clearly.
Now, still in Africa, the anti-French sentiment has been growing over the years. Even now, it's a debate. There we can see how so many people are talking about the role of France in Africa. Do you think that France can cope without these French-speaking African countries that they colonized in the past? Can France survive without Africa?
I think we have to find something real really new between each countries of Africa and France. And at the moment, but you just have to see who is the foreign minister. It is Jean-Yves Le Drian. He learned and he made all his career with a way of thinking, the post-colonial system. So you can't ask him to reinvent something now. So we are with this minister. It is not a good minister for the relationship between France and each countries of Africa. So we have to find something new. The President Macron tried to do things, but in fact, it's not enough. And we have things he don't. He has he should have make, and he didn't make them. And for example, the situation of Cameroon and in 2018, 6 months before the elections, because after it's too late, I think, but 6 months before these elections, he should have said something to different leaders of Cameroon, not only to one, because this situation of gré à gré is not something we can accept. You can't accept, I can't accept. But he should have said, hey, Paul Biya, you're too old to have a new mandate. So you have to help just with saying we are going to have a democratical process for this new election. But as usual, because now I can see in other countries, France makes the choice to say nothing because they hope with Paul Biya at the same place, it will be okay for 5 or 6 years more and more, and it will be okay for the big French companies. And I think it's a big mistake.
Do you think it's time to end France CFA and France Afrique?
Of course, it is just a question of understanding what is Cameroonian people today. You have to understand it's very basic. 10 years ago, even 10 years ago, when, I don't know, President Chirac was saying something about your country, in fact, you just have, at this moment, people from the government and the elite who were aware of what he has said. But now, when the President Macron or when Jean-Yves Le Drian is doing something, is saying something, everybody in Cameroon is aware of what happened because we have all these new possibilities with our smartphone and things like that, internet. And so the information is able to touch everybody in the country. And so we can't do as if all the Cameroonians are represented by only one person, that is Paul Biya, who is, I don't know, 88 years old, something like that. It's completely crazy. What about the situation if it was the same in France? In France, we just have our President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, who died. But if it was him, the president of France, it would be completely crazy for all French people, all French citizens. So there are a lot of questions, but of course, the question of our mentalities in France are to be changed, because in the most of the political minds, you have still something you can say it's very the same as the post-colonial situation, and it's unacceptable, and it's a big mistake. You have the both. It's unacceptable because why a country should be on the other at the top? I don't know. It's
Now,
not.
now, now, tell me, many people are calling on France to pay reparations to Africa. Do you think that is a possibility?
Well, I think we have to do things. We have to do things. It is something the President Macron tried to see with this. It's very small, I admit, but it's important. It's about cultural things. For example, we vote at the moment the restitution of statues to Benin or to Senegal, that I think that we take at the colonial moment, and we don't have to keep them. And with this, it was asked by the President Macron to the National Assembly to vote this restitution. With this, it's not enough, but we are starting to say, hey, it's not our, it's their. That means we have made a mistake with keeping this. With the idea, it's not very far from stealing something to a country.
Now, I have
So this restitution are not enough because of all the damages caused, but it is a good way. And so it is something we have to say. Sometimes the French government do things we are to look at them with a good eyes, and not something
okay.
else.
Okay, reparations will not be enough, but is the beginning
No.
of something. I want to ask you briefly before we come back to Cameroon and the Anglophone crisis about the ICC, looking at the role that former French President Nicola Sarkozy played in Libya. Do you think that he should be taken to the ICC?
Well, it's not clear because just for a reason. Normally, in the statutes of the ICC, you ask the ICC when the justice of the country is unable to put in accusation someone. And you have to know Nicola Sarkozy, maybe he will be in jail in a few months. He's in a process at the moment. It's very serious, you know. So if the French justice was not able to put Sarkozy, yes, okay, I say yes, why not? It is not because it's a French that you don't have to go to the ICC, but at the moment, I work on the independence of the justice. It's not perfect in France, but we can put in jail someone as an old president of the French Republic. So the question is not totally, yes, we have to do this. I think if we follow the process of the ICC, it's not at the moment a necessity.
Now, let us go back to Cameroon to talk about the Anglophone crisis, like I said, and possible solutions because time is not on our side. I also see a lot of people sending in questions on Facebook there. I want to find out from you. Let's begin from outside Cameroon and diplomatic efforts to resolve the Anglophone crisis. Recently, we saw Germany saying that being invited to resolve the Anglophone crisis. We've seen diplomats in the US talking about what should be done to end the Anglophone crisis. Now, there's also Switzerland trying to mediate in what is known as the Swiss-led dialogue. What do you think about it, and why is France not saying anything about the Swiss-led mediation?
Well, first, I have to say the, the the fact that the France is silent, is not the solution, of course. So I'm not happy for this. But after, we have to see different things. The first one, it is the international community, and particularly the Security Council, and all these possibilities are in a very bad moment. And it is not just because of Donald Trump at the moment, but in fact, it's very complicated at the moment to have something real, concrete from the international community. So that's a first thing we really have to have in our mind. After, I think the initiative of Germany or Switzerland, it is something good, but really not enough. If we want something clear, we need to have a European Union initiative, okay? And with this initiative, we need to bring this initiative with United States of America. And I think in maybe 2 or 3 months, it will be okay in United States of America. It was very complicated the previous months for different reasons. First, for the Trump administrations, and second, because of the coronavirus. So we have to wait 2 or 3 months, not
So
more.
you're saying the European Union could do something?
Should,
But
yes,
under the
clearly.
we have countries like France said to be blocking every bit of negotiations or mediation efforts. How do you think this can succeed when we have individual countries who are not willing to ensure that the crisis is resolved?
But it's not only France, I believe. You have a situation. It's not just one country who can block an initiative from the European Union. So the European Union has to do something, and for different reasons. But first, because European Union is not aware of his capability to do things. It's not in our tradition as a European. I speak at the moment. It's not in our tradition to intervene. But I think it's the future. If we want something to improve democratical process, crisis like this, like the crisis in the Anglophone part of Cameroon, we need European Union. But I didn't finish. We need European Union. We need United States of America. And I believe in a few months we can do something, but we also need African Union, and of course, and the most important, it is to have the community of Cameroon, from the diaspora, but also inside, with a new regard of their situation. I, as a parliament member of France, I don't have to say anything of the political solution. It is a new country, it is more federalism, it is a new territorial organization. It's not my part. It's not the part of European Union or of United States of America. And this part is essential. And this part can only, if we want something improve something good, it can only come from Cameroonese people, and because it's very important, the a good regard from the country who are just near, and particularly in talking with Nigeria, I think.
I had this question that came in on the situation in the northwest and the southwest regions. Um, one person uh, asked, "What do you think about self-defense in the conflict?"
Well, it's a very complicated question. What I have to say first, it is uh, the violence is never, never, never a good solution. You know, I'm an historian before I was an historian before I was elected as a MP, and I've never seen a good process with violence from both parts of a situation. So first, the question of violence is a real question, but you know, we have it in the situation inside France. So it's not it's really a problem. But the question of self-defense, it is of course the question. I understand it. If there is no defense from the government and the public security forces, the question is full, and I understand that is a real question, and particularly because in the north with Boko Haram. But what I can see now, and it's a real big problem, it is about the situation near South Africa Republic, where army groups are everywhere, and with the next presidential election, I think it will be more and more unstable, and so it will be very complicated.
Now, I also want to find out from you about what the conflict in the northwest and the southwest regions has lasted for more than 4 years now. No end in sight. Nobody knows what is going to be happening in the next months, in the next years to come, and so many children have not been to school, continuous loss of lives, and we see havoc on daily basis being wreaked in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Tell us how can this crisis be resolved? What do you think could be the solution?
First, it won't be a solution who will become in 2 or 3 days. I think, I'm sorry, but it's a long process. But first, the question of a signal of the Cameroonese government is something we can. It's a necessity. You understand? Now we have a government. It's more and more difficult to see something as a dialogue or something like that. When you have an opponent, he is in jail. Now you have the problem with the lawyers, and so the first thing I have to say it is we need something from the Cameroonese government. It is a necessity.
Do
You
you
can't
believe
do.
that the Biya regime can resolve the Anglophone crisis? Do
Oh,
you believe in the Biya
I'm not.
regime?
I'm not saying he can resolve the conflict, but he had the care of the first step. If nothing changed from his part, it is not possible to hope something on this. So the question is first the government of Bolivia, of course, and then with the association of all the good volunteer in the country and outside the country, we can hope something positive. Um, there are a lot of people who are able to participate or to build the dialogue. But at the moment, the conditions are not here because of the government, and it's really the central question, I think. You can say at the same time, hey, we are going to make something as a decentralization to organize regional election, but you know who are going to be elected before the election, and there is no dialogue. It is security forces or
I
military
don't believe,
forces who are sent in the. It is not dialogue. So
because we saw the regional elections took place today in Cameroon, in the northwest and the southwest regions as well. According to the government, this would be also one of the ways of resolving the crisis. We saw the special status put in place by the government, disarmament committee put in place as well. You think that all of this is a sham? Is that what you're saying? It cannot resolve the crisis.
but you have to change everything in Cameroon. So it's complicated to believe that people who are at the government since a lot of years, they didn't do anything to improve the situation.
Change
So
everything, like what are the things that, what are the key things that need changes in Cameroon?
the case is you have the question of justice. You can't put all the opponents in jail because they are just opponents. It's not possible. Second, you can't hope build a country with all these children without education. It is not possible. You can't. It's unbearable. If you want to send military people in southern Cameroon, it is okay just to assure the security of the children who want in and who can go to school. And it is not clearly the situation at the moment in Cameroon. So you have to think the justice, you have to think the education, and you have to think a new territorial organization, of course. And it means that the electoral process has to be reviewed. And it is the question is from different parties, political parties of Cameroon. So you have the K, but first we need a signal from the government of Bolivia, of
The,
course.
the government has been there for 40 years and we are not seeing any changes. Do you have any hopes? Do you have hopes that there can be changes?
I think we are arriving at a moment. It can't. It won't be possible to stay in the same situation. It is not possible. Too many people are suffering at the moment in Cameroon, and all the question, and it's very important what I believe, the social problems, the educational problems in Cameroon are very, very important and more important. And with this, we can't think it is okay to continue as if nothing happens. Of course, you have the Anglophone question. It is very important. But in all the country, we can see it is not an improvement on essential questions, that is to say, education, social questions, and the question of justice with this. And so I think the country is at the moment, it is impossible to stay like this. So in a way, I have this hope it will change. And because there is a lot of good people that they can do something, and because of diaspora all over the world with a high level of thinking, the country of Cameroon is very special. You have a lot of people of a very high level in each country of this world. So with this we can hope there is a good solution.
Now, if you had the power to effect change, what single solution would you put in place to solve the conflict in Cameroon?
We need a real round table, not in one day, in a long time, but because it's impossible without the regards of international community. We need a peace process organized under the patronage of international community or European Union, I don't know, but we need both actors of the situation. And so we need people who are at the moment in jail also, because they are just in jail because they are opponents. And this is not possible. You can't do a dialogue with people in jail. And of course, you know them better than me. But I know some people who are in jail, but it is not exactly the same. You know, I wrote a book of my exchange with Amadou Vamoulke, who is still in jail. It is not the same problem, but it is in a manner because he is a victim of justice, judiciary system who now is not able to give justice to people. So we have to build this round table with everybody.
Everybody who can talk about the situation in Cameroon, the conflict in the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. One final question before we go. I want to find out from you, the opposition leader in Cameroon, Maurice Kamto, has been under house arrest since the organization of the September 22nd nationwide protest that he called. Several people on the streets, so many of them too were arrested but later released. But his house is is under siege, so to speak. He's under his house has been not officially, but he's been held under house arrest in his house in Yaoundé. What is the position of France, and what do you think about that?
But the position, I asked the question to my foreign minister. It was about 2 months. He says, "Hey, when he was in jail, I asked to free him, and after he was free, so now don't speak about Maurice Kamto." But you know, I talked with Maurice Kamto in Paris and sometimes by phone. It's scandalous. It's enormous. The first opponent, you can say there are a lot of opponents, but the first one is in fact in jail in his country, and it is not the
Undeclared house arrest. So you mean France doesn't care at all? Is that what you're saying?
it's exactly what I said before. France don't want to do anything because they don't want something to change. It is really the situation. But you have to know, if you ask citizens, French citizens, they are not in the same way of thinking. A lot of people in France, they don't know clearly what is happening at the moment in Cameroon. So I try to explain things, but a lot of people don't know that. And they have to be aware of this. And after, our politics will be obliged to change, because French citizens, just the people in the street, they don't want this. It's unbearable for a French citizen.
Thank you so much, Sebastian.
Thank
Honorable
you to you.
and to know that you have in-depth knowledge on politics, social crisis, economic, and also the conflict in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon is quite amazing. And we hope that you continue to make good use of your voice and make what's going on in the country known to the rest of the world. Thank you once again.
Thank you to you. Thank you
And
for your
just
work.
to tell you that we had a lot of people who came on later. They didn't get to follow the interview from the beginning. I recommend that they go back to our discussion from the beginning where you talk about the crisis. What do you think is your position? What is the position of France? If you just came in now, I would recommend, of course, that you go back to our discussions from the beginning. And Honorable Sébastien Nadot, we hope to have you some other time again, of course, when time permits.
And I hope to see you a day in Cameroon. You know
Thank
that?
you. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Hope to
Bye-bye.
see you again, like I said. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it was our pleasure having you once again on the show. We always get to bring politicians across the world to talk about what's going on in the country, the conflict in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Today, the regional elections was taking place across the national territory, and we saw what was going on in the northwest and the southwest regions, the chaos, the violence, the lockdown. Let us know what you think about what is going on until we meet again, because of course we'll be bringing other important politicians, people to talk about what's going on in the country. Let the debate continue there on Facebook so we get to know what you think about all of the things that we discussed today. Once more, thank you so much. Until we meet again, goodbye.